Hiskel, Ezekiel 33:1. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of your people, and you shall say to them, When I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land shall take a man from their borders, and shall make him their watchman. And he sees the sword coming upon the land, and shall blow the shofar, and shall warn the people. Then whoever shall hear the voice of the shofar, and shall not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood is on his head. A sword is coming upon the earth, and it is at the door. This judgment is seen in Revelation 6 as the red horse. Kasson, Revelation 6:4. And another horse, fiery red, came out, and it was given to the one who sat on it, to take peace from the earth, and that they should slay one another, and a great sword was given to him. This judgment has happened before, and that is why Yahusha said, And as the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. For as they were in the days before the flood, eating and drinking, marrying and giving marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. Then two shall be in the field, the one is taken, and the one is left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, one is taken, and one is left. As we have seen in our Passover 2 study, the ones taken are the wicked ones, and the ones marked by Elohim are the ones spared as a remnant. But what happened in the days of Noah? A lot of people wonder why a loving Elohim would wipe out all of mankind. But did you know that there's more to that story? Did you know that mankind was nearly wiped out before the flood by rampant evil? Let us start at the beginning to get an understanding of what the sword of Yahuwah is, and why this judgment will come upon man once more, as it did in the days of Noah. Hanuk, Enoch 9:1-2, and Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from the Shemayim and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all the lawless being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, The earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of the Shemayim. Notice in verse 2 it says the earth was made without inhabitant. So by all the bloodshed, men were being killed off of the face of the earth, and there weren't very many of them left. Now in Genesis we see the reason the angels came down was to lay with women. Bereshith, Genesis 6:1. And it came to be, when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men that they were good, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And Yahuwah said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And Yahuwah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahuwah was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. Notice in verse 3 it says, And Yahuwah said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. Many people believe that this was the time that man's lifespan was shortened. But there is more to this 120 years that you see here in Genesis. Yashar, chapter 6, verse 11. And Yahuwah granted them a period of 120 years, saying, If they will return, then will Elohim repent of the evil so as not to destroy the earth. He gave them 120 years to repent, but they would not. And for the first judgment before the flood, you have to read Jubilees 5:1. And he said, My spirit shall not abide on man, for they are also flesh, and their days shall be 120 years. And he sent his sword into their midst, that they should slay their neighbor. And they began to slay each other, till they all fell by the sword, and were destroyed from the earth. This is the sword of Yahuwah, and this is what happens when his spirit is taken from the earth. Hanok Enoch 10:9. And Yahuwah said to Gabriel, Proceed against the half-breeds and the retrobates, and against the children of whoring, and destroy the children of the watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they might destroy each other in battle, for they shall not have length of days. And no request that they make of you shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, for they expect to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And Yahuwah said to Michael, Go bind Shimei and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanliness. And when their sons have slain one another, as they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and their complete end, till the judgment that is forever is ended. In the book of the Jubilees, chapter 7, Noah tells his sons about the events that transpired. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noah began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew, and he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh, and to bless their Creator and honor father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanliness and all iniquity. For owing to these three things came the flood upon the earth, namely, owing to the fornication wherein the watchers against the law of their ordinances went a-whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves wives of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanliness. And they begot sons, the Nephilim, and they were all unlike, and they devoured one another. And the giants slew the Nephil, and the Nephil slew the Izyo, and the Izyo mankind, and one man another. And everyone sold himself to work iniquity, and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this they sinned against the beast and the birds, and all that moves and walks on the earth, and much blood was shed on the earth, and every imagination and desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. And Yahuwah destroyed everything from off the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth, he destroyed everything. And we were left, I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness, for in the path of destruction ye begun to walk, and ye are parting one from another, and are envious one of another. And so it comes that ye are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see, and behold, the demons have begun their seductions against you and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf, that after my death ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whoso sheddeth man's blood, and whoso eateth the blood of any flesh, shall all be destroyed from the earth. And there shall not be left any man that eateth blood, or that sheddeth the blood of man on the earth, nor shall there be left to him any seed or descendants living under heaven. For into Sheol shall they go, and into the place of condemnation shall they descend, and into the darkness of the deep they shall be removed by a violent death. Notice in this verse it says that they all shall be removed by a violent death. The fallen angels watch their sons slay one another, and they want nothing more than to watch mankind do the same. But how? By blindness. Satan's plan all along has been to blind mankind and separate us from the love of Yahuwah. This blindness started in the garden after they ate of the forbidden fruit. Father Yahuwah made mankind skins. The word for skins is ayin uah resh, and the word for blind is also spelled the same way but pronounced now as avar. To understand the meaning of the letter ayin fully, you need to understand Eastern culture. For instance, before I was deployed to Iraq, I had to take a course on Eastern culture, and we were shown these images of the British hostage kid being touched by Saddam. At first it seems innocent to us in the Western culture, but to them this shows that he didn't think much of the child, and here is why. Quote, millions of Muslims and Hindus around the world were bowled over by this need to buy toilet paper, since they typically wash their backsides with water, according to the Sahih al-Bukhari, one of the 6 significant hadith collections in Sunni Islam. The left hand should be used for anal ablution after defecation. So in the Western culture, we see Saddam smiling while touching the kid, but in the Eastern culture, they see Saddam saying that the kid is dung. This is a simple understanding that in ancient Eastern cultures, left is bad, right is good. And even the word righteous implies that you are more right. So let's look at ayin and gayin, the letter dropped off of Hebrew, with this understanding. As you can see in this slide, the ayin, or the right eye, is seeing what is right in your sight. It is a picture of an eye and means to see, experience, watch, heed, know, cover, color, vision, and shade. The gayin used to be the left eye to the ayin. It means seeing what is wicked in your sight. It means twisted, dark, wicked, evil, afflict, and it was the left eye to the ayin. It is in the shape of the twisted ropes, which you see under the number 23. After Adam and Eve disobeyed Yahuwah, he made them skins. Bereshith, Genesis 3:21. And Yahuwah Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife and dressed them. So now by the audio, this makes sense. And in this slide, for the Hebrew word or, which is Strong's 5785, which means skin, is ayin uah resh, seeing what is right in your own sight, connected to man. This is a picture of what it is to be in the flesh. We judge for ourselves what we think is right or wrong. And Strong's 5786, which they say is pronounced avar, is spelt the same way, ayin uah resh. This is because it used to be spelled with the gayin. Gayin uah resh, or gore, is blind, and it means wickedness connected to man. When you have wickedness connected to you, you are spiritually blind. Now the audio makes sense. Here's another example of a word with ayin. The word is ra, resh ayin, Strong's 7453. It means a friend or a companion or a fellow. And by the audio, it means man seeing what is right in his sight. This is a picture of a friend. Here's another example of a word spelt the same way. Ra is spelt resh ayin, which is Strong's 7451, which means adversity, bad or evil. When you put the gayin back into this word, you have resh gayin, a man seeing what is wicked in your sight. This word, pronounced ra, would then be pronounced rag and means evil. With the audio, these words now make sense. Take the Hebrew word Gaza for instance. That is Hebrew Strong's 5804. which refers to a Philistine city. And we know this word is pronounced Gaza because Greek Strong's 1048 refers to the same word, and it is pronounced Gaza. We know also that this is a shortened version of the Hebrew word for scapegoat, which is Azazel. The word is used in Hebrew now to refer to hell, which makes sense when you apply the gain to the word, because now by the odiote it means wickedness cut off from Yahuwah, or Gayin, Zayin, Aleph. Being separated from Yahuwah is a picture of what it is to be in hell. When you add the Gayin back to Azazel's name, it becomes Gazazel, and now the odiote will make sense. We know that in Leviticus, all sin would be ascribed to the scapegoat, which is Strong's 5799 Azazel, which means entire removal. Now, using the odiote, putting back in the letter Gain, the word Gazazel makes sense because the odiote shows wickedness separated from Yahuwah and separated from the shepherd. This is what it means to be entirely removed. Satan's plan all along is to separate man from Yahuwah, just as in the name of the scapegoat Azazel, which we have shown to mean complete separation from Yahuwah. Satan opened man's eyes to being able to judge for themselves what they thought to be right or wrong, but he wants to finish the job. How do we know this? Well, because after Yahuwah rescued the Israelites from the clutches of Egypt and gave them the Torah to teach them what is sin, and was king over them on earth, as shown in Shemoth Exodus 13:21, and Yahuwah went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. The column of cloud did not cease by day, nor the column of fire by night before the people. At this time no army could defeat them, and Satan had no chance of blinding the Israelites. So he put it in their hearts that they needed an earthly king. Shemuel, Aleph, 1 Samuel 8. And all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Shemuel at Ramah, and said to him, Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a sovereign to rule us like all the nations. But the word was evil in the eyes of Shemuel when they said, Give us a sovereign to rule us. So Samuel prayed to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah said to Shemuel, Listen to the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from reigning over them, according to all the works which they have done, since the day I brought them up out of Mitzrayim. Even to this day, forsaking me and serving other mighty ones, so they are doing to you too. 1 Samuel 9:27. As they were walking towards the edge of the city, Shemuel said to Shaul, Say to the servant to go on ahead of us. And he went on. But you stand here a moment, so that I let you hear the word of Elohim. 1 Samuel 10:1. And Shemuel took a flask of oil and poured it on his head, and kissed him and said, Is it not because Yahuwah has anointed you leader over his inheritance? As soon as the Israelites denied Yahuwah and made Saul king, the serpent returned to blind them. 1 Samuel 11:1. And Nachash the Ammonite came up and camped against Yabesh Gilead. And all the men of Yabesh said to Nachash, Make a covenant with us, and we shall serve you. Then Nachash the Ammonites answered them, For this I make a covenant with you, that I dig out all of your right eyes, and I shall bring a reproach on all Yisrael. So as you can see, as soon as Satan had the Israelites separated from Yahuwah, he showed up trying to gouge out their right eye, severing their allegiance to Yahuwah and making them his servants. But Saul put together an army of men to go and fight in the cause. 1 Samuel 11:11. And it came to be on the next day that Shaul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp in the morning watch, and struck Ammon until the heat of the day. And it came to be that those left were scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. After Saul came King David, who was after Yahuwah's own heart. But then came Solomon, who turned Israel back to idol worship. And after him were a series of kings, some who did right and some who did wickedness, leading all the way to Yahusha, who was the true king of Israel. But he came to defeat the power that Satan had over us all, and bring us back to the light, and connect us to the Father, and to fill us with the Ruach HaKodesh. So the old serpent had to launch a new plan, a plan to use drug sorcery, Pharmaca, to deceive mankind, as seen in Revelation. Kasson, Revelation 18:23. And the light of a lamp shall not shine in you any more at all, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall not be heard in you any more at all. For your merchants were the great ones of the earth. For by their drug sorcery all the nations were led astray. Even the number of this chapter and verse shows the symbol of pharmacy, and shows by the audio that this is the snare of wickedness. When we think of Pharmaca, we only think of actual medicine. But that is not all that pharmaceutical companies do. They also work on researching new strands of viruses, and as we all know, COVID is unlike any virus that we have ever seen. Quote, in Greek mythology, the chimera was a fire-breathing monster, a horrifying mishmash of a lion, a goat, and a snake that laid waste to the countryside. In 2015, virologists led by Ralph Baric at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill reported the creation of their own chimera. They took a version of the coronavirus, responsible for the deadly outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, in the early 2000s, now known as SARS-CoV, and adorned it with a surface proteins from different coronaviruses taken from the Chinese horseshoe bats. In the laboratory, this particular mashup was able to break into human cells and also make mice ill. This chimera came with a message. Other coronaviruses have the potential to spark a human pandemic. In just a few years' time, that warning would prove prescient, as a distant cousin of SARS-CoV has now killed more than 4.9 million people worldwide. So what does this virus have to do with gouging out of the eye? Telahim, Psalm 69:23. Let their eyes be darkened so as not to see, and make their loins shake continually. Koheleth, Ecclesiastes 12:3. In the day when the guards of the house tremble, and the strong men shall bow down, when the grinders shall cease because they are few, and those that look through the windows shall become dim. Zechariah 11:17. Woe to the worthless shepherd forsaking the flock. Let a sword be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall wither and his right eye shall be dimmed. So why would Yahuwah allow Satan to blind the eyes of mankind and bring about all of these pandemics? Well, he warned us about this in Deuteronomy 28:15. And it shall be, if you do not obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, to guard and do all his commands and his laws which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. And he tells us in all these curses that blindness will come upon us for not keeping his commands. Deuteronomy 28:28. Yahuwah shall strike you with madness and blindness and bewilderment of heart. And you shall be groping at noon, as a blind man gropes in darkness, and does not prosper in your ways, and you shall be only oppressed and plundered all the days with no one to save you. And again he says in verse 34, and you shall be maddened because of the sight which your eyes see. Deuteronomy 28:58. If you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, to fear this esteemed and awesome name, Yahweh your Elohim, then Yahweh shall bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and lasting plagues, and grievous and lasting sicknesses. And he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mitzrayim, of which you were afraid, and they shall cling to you. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the books of this Torah, Yahweh does bring upon you until you are destroyed. If mankind would just turn back to Yahweh and repent, then maybe he will relent of the evil that is being placed upon the earth, and to heal them. This is a hard message to bring to you, family, and I just want to share what has been put on my heart and my discoveries that I have made through spending time in His Word and researching the things that are happening right now. I am sounding this alarm to you, and everything I am about to share with you, I will leave links in the description for you to look into it for yourself. I want to show you why I believe and that people are beginning to change and act more aggressive. Let us start first with this image of Thoth, the baboon, holding in his hand the right eye of Horus. Thoth, as seen in our other videos, is the same false god as Odin and Hermes, but we know is the fallen angel Gadriel, the same angel that betrayed Eve and Adam in the garden in Enoch 69. Enoch 69:6, and the name of the third is Gadriel. This is the one that showed all the deadly blows to the Son of Men, and he led astray Eve. And he showed the weapons of death to the children of men, the shield and the breastplate, and the sword for slaughter, and all the weapons of death to the sons of men. Notice in this passage that he made the sword for slaughter, and this is exactly what he intends for you and I. Look at the eye that the baboon is holding. Quote, the sacred eye could also function as a symbol of offerings. Frequently in the art of the later New Kingdom, a personified eye presents incense or other offerings as the deceased, as he kneels before the throne of Osiris. As sacred solar animals, baboons are also frequently shown presenting Wadjet eyes to the rising sun. Quote, the evil eye is a supernatural belief in a curse brought about by a malevolent glare, usually given to a person when one is unaware. The evil eye dates back about 5,000 years in the 6th century BC. It appears in Chalcidian drinking vessels known as eye cups as a type of apotropic magic. It is found in many cultures in the Mediterranean region as well as in Western Asia and Central Asia, with such cultures often believing that receiving the evil eye will cause misfortune or injury, while others believe it to be a kind of supernatural force that casts or reflects a malevolent glaze back upon those who wish to harm others, especially innocents. In modern Greece, the evil eye is known as Kato, or simply Mati, the Mati eye. Well, who was Mati? Mati was a goddess of Egypt who was a consort of Thoth. Thoth is the baboon that was holding the eye of Horus. The eye he is holding is not an eyeball. It is a picture of the limbic system inside the brain. So what is the limbic system? Quote, the limbic system is a group of interconnected structures located deep within the brain. It is the part of the brain that is responsible for behavioral and emotional responses, Scientists haven't reached an agreement about the full list of structures that make up the limbic system, but the following structures are generally accepted as part of the group. The hypothalamus. In addition to controlling emotional responses, the hypothalamus is also involved in sexual responses, hormone release, and regulating body temperature. The hippocampus. The hippocampus helps preserve and retrieve memories. It also plays a role in how you understand the spatial dimensions of your environment. The amygdala. The amygdala helps coordinate responses to things in your environment, especially those that trigger an emotional response. This structure plays an important role in fear and anger. Limbic cortex. This part contains two structures, the cingulate gyrus and the parahippocampal gyrus. Together, they impact mood, motivation, and judgment. Now you can see this shows the eye inside of the human brain. This is a picture of the hieroglyph of the widget eye and a cutaway inside of the human brain. This is a picture of the sigil of Satan. For a long time I did not know what this actually meant, what this actually means. A sigil, quote, is a type of symbol used in magic. The term has usually referred to a pictorial signature of a deity or spirit. In modern usage, especially in the context of chaos magic, sigil refers to a symbolic representation of the practitioner's desired outcome. So what is his desired outcome? This is an image of the visual pathways inside the human brain, from the objects that we see and how they travel through the optic nerve and create an image in the back of our brain. This is the sigil of Satan inserted into the visual pathway, but notice where the image is created in the back of the brain, it is now separated and a V is placed where the system used to be. The V represents Vesper or Lilith, the evening star. This represents darkness. As in, if the light that is within thee is darkness, how great is that darkness? This means that everything you look at will appear to be evil to you. This will turn mankind against each other, just like the evil eye that we just discussed. In this image, you can see that they show the V as Lilith. Could this be why many of the elite cover an eye? To not only show their allegiance, but because they know the outcome of the coming cataclysm? This is what they call the Age of Horus, or the third eon of Thelema, which is mankind controlled by darkness and devoid of the Ruach HaKodesh. This is why we are to fill our lanterns with oil, so that when the darkness comes, we can be the light for others. We are seeing people change. And there is a lot of evidence that shows that the virus has not only changed people physically, but also mentally. And in this next section of the video, I want to share with you some of my personal findings. I do recommend that you look into everything that I am about to share with you for yourself and do your own research. I will leave you all of the links to my research that I have done in the description. Quote, brain scans showed structural and functional changes in the group who had recovered from COVID-19. These include changes in the volume and activity in two areas of the brain linked to storing and recalling memories and expressing emotions, the hippocampus and the amygdala. Quote, New York City was one of the coronavirus's early targets, and it didn't take long for Boldrini to notice surprising issues among COVID-19 patients, including serious mood and psychiatric symptoms. Very strange symptoms, she recalls, made even stranger because they were cropping up in people with no personal or family history of such problems. Adding to the mystery was the appearance of these conditions relatively late in a patient's life rather than in adolescence or early adulthood. Quote, In this study, we conducted RNA sequencing on two brain regions, olfactory bulb and amygdala, from subjects who died from COVID-19 or who died of other causes. We found several-fold more transcriptional changes in the olfactory bulb than in the amygdala, consistent with our own work and that of others, indicating that the olfactory bulb may be the initial and most common brain region affected. Quote, reduced amygdala volume has been implicated in the development of severe and persistent aggression and the development of psychopathic personality. Quote, the disease may be best known for its ability to rob people of their breath, but as the pandemic spread, patients began reporting a discerning array of cognitive and psychiatric issues, memory lapses, fatigue, and mental fuzziness that become known as brain fog. There were also more acute problems, including paranoia, hallucinations, thoughts of suicide, and psychosis. Researchers have found signs that the virus can establish a foothold of sorts on the periphery of the brain, where the protective blood-brain barrier opens up to allow key molecules to slip through. One of those places is the olfactory bulb, which can be reached through the nose, in a fact that could explain why many COVID-19 patients lose their sense of smell. Quote, scientists have identified a specific region of the brain called the amygdala as the part of the brain that it processes fear, triggers anger, and motivates us to act, and alerts us to danger and activates the fight or flight response. Researchers have also found that the prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain that controls reasoning, judgment, and helps us think logically before we act. Quote, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and traumatic brain injury can cause changes in behavior by altering brain anatomy. Now it seems the coronavirus can too. Quote, COVID-19 infection correlated with the cognitive and behavioral changes within 2 months of hospital discharge, according to findings from a small study presented during the 7th Congress of the European Academy of Neurology. Study results showed that patients aged less than 50 years, which the researchers identified as the youngest patients, experienced the most severe changes. Quote, there are many different theories from what is exactly behind long-haul COVID, from inflammation to viral particles left in the body causing damage, but Gupta theorizes that the key to the condition actually lies in the brain. We believe parts of the brain, the amygdala and the insula specifically, are reacting as if the COVID infection is still present, and then going on to cause the ongoing symptoms, he noted. Quote, researchers also found massive changes in the olfactory bulb and a closely connected amygdala brain region. Aside from explaining the loss of the sense of smell in people with COVID-19, these changes could contribute to depression and other emotional changes in the weeks and months after infection. Quote, the loss of smell that occurs in some patients with COVID-19 could indicate that the virus entered through the olfactory bulb, which is located right above the nose and communicates information about smell to the brain. Quote, since 2019, increased interest and attention have been given to the features of clinical presentation of COVID-19 caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. At this time, there is a growing data confirming the direct impact of SARS-CoV-2 on the limbic system in the brain and its immune-mediated damage. Quote, brain lesions caused by SARS-CoV-2 are variative. Among all possible targets, the involvement of the limbic system and limbic dysfunction caused by COVID-19 seems to be the most important one. The reason of such importance is explained by the fact that the limbic dysfunction can cause not only personality disorders and behavioral changes, including a schizoaffective disorders, but also lead to severe social disadaptation as a result. Quote, Their brains show thinning of the cortex, which helps execute mental processing like planning and self-control. The reduced volume in the hippocampus and amygdala, which are involved in accessing memories and regulating responses to fear and stress, respectively. Moreover, based on their cortical and subcortical features, the post-shutdown group had older brain ages than adolescents accessed before the pandemic. Their brains showed neuroanatomical features more typical of older people or those who experience chronic stress or adversity in childhood. Quote, when the amygdala sustains damage, it can impair these functions and interfere with emotional and behavioral processes. As a result, individuals may experience problems with memory, decision-making, and other behavioral skills. Damage to the amygdala can cause a variety of symptoms, most often emotional and behavioral. Individuals may experience irritability, confusion, and a variety of strong emotions. Quote, amygdala hijacked. Psychologist Daniel Goleman first used the term amygdala hijacking in his 1995 book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. It refers to situations wherein the amygdala hijacks control of a person's ability to respond rationally to a threat. This then leads the person reacting in an intense, emotional way that may be out of proportion to the situation. As you can see in the little bit of research that I have done, the brain is being changed in a negative way, and this will progress as people are having reoccurring infections. The jab itself reproduces the virus inside of the body and will have similar effects as well, if not even stronger. But I want to leave you with some encouragement and share with you what has been helping me. First, let's go to Jubilees chapter 10, verse 12. And we explained to Noah all the medicines of their diseases, together with all their seductions, and how he might heal them with herbs. When the Israelites were delivered from the first Exodus, Father Yahuwah put power in Aaron's rod, that when he threw it down, it devoured the works of their sorcery. I find it very interesting that rhodiola rosa, which is also called Aaron's rod, not only helps support the limbic system, it is a powerful antioxidant, antidepressant. It helps with brain fog, gives you energy, has antitoxic effects on the liver. It also helps with anxiety, improves memory, helps with diabetes, is anti-cancer, and helps regulate the heart, and also helps you to lose weight. This herb basically helps with every symptom of long COVID. I have just started taking this, and I have immediately noticed my energy levels have increased and my mind seems to be a lot more clear. If you suffer from long COVID, it may help you, but make sure you check with your doctor before taking it if you already take other medicines. I will leave some links showing the benefits of this herb in the description. Always remember that no weapon formed against us will prosper, because there is no power greater than the Most High Yahuwah. And also remember to love Elohim with all your heart, all your being, and all your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. We pray that this video is a blessing to you all, and may Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Shalom.